New Rules
What a
Podcast.
blockchain.
You already know.
Blockchain.
What the is blockchain?
Trap. It's like you can't hide this.
It's open source. It's all available.
You can't hide this.
Oh, yeah,
Bernie sold 65 million, dude.
Please. Ran off on the plug twice. He stayed calling, I ain't calling back.
That's where Bernie.
How so, Mr. Sawyer? New Rules Podcast. It's your boy McKinley Hayes. I'm here with my guy, Keril, K-Dog. We here to just keep talking that talk, man.
Talking that talk, walking that walk.
Been having a good conversation.
Tripping that trip.
You done? We ain't having a good conversation. Cryptocurrency, of course, you know, we're big proponents of that, but you know, we're learning just like you, and we just want to be transparent about the conversation. And we're having a great conversation, right?
Just help people out, because what most successful people typically do is they build a plane in the air
and withhold information.
Now we're going to talk about blockchain, but I'll let you ask the question and we'll kind of go into that.
So I wanted to ask you, all this talk about the different coins, about the technology actually sticking around longer than the coins, are the coins overinflated, and what is what? And it's all centered around blockchain technology. Mm-hmm. So many people hear the word, they've Googled it, they've looked it up, they hear the word ledger, but they don't feel confident in their ability to understand it. So I'd like for you to share with anyone watching this video, share with me on a simplified level, what is the blockchain and why should people be excited about it?
Yeah, is a great question. So most people are probably, when you hear blockchain, they're familiar with it being like the underlying technology of Bitcoin. That's how they kind of see it.
Right.
Blockchain is a whole lot more than that and is super, super valuable and could change the way that we do business, work, live, play, all that forever. So let's talk about like exactly like what blockchain is.
Mr. Sawyer?
It's a great question. Thank you for the Kermit voice. I appreciate that.
Yeah, edit that. That wasn't cool.
The best way to describe it is what people are used to, which is the age-old method of like ledgering, right? So back in the olden days, called like the Renaissance era, right? Mac's family buys some property out in Italy, Tuscany somewhere, and then that's documented somewhere, right? The Lord dies, and then like your son comes in or whatever, and then that son's like, oh, that's my property. Like, where do you go? You got to go into the city. You got to talk to like the land person or whatever like that is.
Pull up some kind of file.
Right, exactly.
Some computer system. Some tampered documents.
Same
allegedly
thing. You know what's funny about that? Let's bring that to what people are probably used to, like Succession. Like just one random episode that kind of ties into our conversation is like they run into like Logan Roy's Joan, like grab all the files. FBI comes and takes all the files. Okay. Fast forward to what we're talking about now, right? So they're paper assets of all those ledgers, like written summaries, how we track everything now. Right. Imagine having a system or a distributed ledger digitally that automatically verifies everything, and there's multiple safety mechanisms to make sure that what's on the blockchain or written in the blockchain or what's tied to the ledger is true. It's
a trusted source because it uses the tech to identify what's valid and what's not.
Exactly.
So in the case of Succession or my family buying property, instead of going back and digging through papers and trying to find out what's right, we can go to the blockchain, and every transaction involving what we're talking about is documented and available to be seen.
Yeah, being a voyeur sometimes, or just diving into the YouTube rabbit hole. Yeah, I know I was being YouTube sometimes. I'd be like, where did that last hour go? One of the channels I watch is CoffeeZilla, right? He's super funny. Post Malone had created like a video, like a music video, where he like on his phone he had like MoonPay or whatever, like he was promoting some app. He was promoting some sort of cryptocurrency. Like dude was just like, oh man, like how much is he getting paid? He just looked that shit up on the blockchain, man. It's like you can't hide that.
It's open source. It's all available.
You can't hide that shit. I was like, yo, that's dope.
Okay, sorry, let me pause you here. Can the blockchain be private or is everything always open? Great
question. Blockchain, even though it's called blockchain, it's really chains of blocks, so it's multiple networks. Right. So meaning that the short answer is like there could be private blockchain networks and public ones. Obviously, the public ones is where we want all our financial files and shit like that. Right. But yes, private companies can create blockchains and have a system that's internal, but everything's still documented there, right? Right. But the
governance and the authentication and who can see what, that can be coded into a smart contract. So only certain people could see certain stuff.
Exactly.
If they want. Okay.
The underlying technology is revolutionary, but how it's used and who can use it just depends. But we're talking about the underlying technology and what's so cool about that.
Gotcha.
One thing that came to mind is I was thinking about this conversation was kind of in like a funny way was the Bernie Madoff scandal. Like imagine if like you was like, yo Bernie, like where my $2 billion at?
Right.
And he's like,
and he
oh,
had
man.
to show you how it got. Yeah.
Like nah, bro, I'm looking at the blockchain right now. Like give me my fucking money, Bernie. Come get your ass. Like fast forward to today. Like let's say Bernie had to use blockchain. Like Bernie, you scam me. I'm looking at this. Right. I don't see none of this that's in my statement.
Show me in the ledger
exactly
where my money made 30%.
Exactly.
You would have to show that your 30 came from somebody else who got cut 30. That's how the Ponzi scheme works, right?
Exactly.
Early in, gonna make that money.
Yo, side conversation. Yo, why when you look up all these white dudes that be balling, like all these scammy white dudes, they be balling. Like you talking about rappers balling?
Oh yeah,
Bernie sold 65 million, dude.
Please. Rapper can't hold a torch to these Ponzi scheme motherfuckers.
Oh, but they be balling still, but like Bernie quit, bro.
And low key, like
so digressing. Hopefully, blockchain could change that, right? It's almost like, bro, like what Bernie was doing was hidden in plain sight.
Right,
With blockchain, used to be like, oh, bro, like
look
how you transferring, like how you making 20-30% returns?
Right.
Like you can just go do the research. Anybody can do the research.
Right.
Ideally, hopefully we get to that level where it's just like everything is just like, yo, like I can just look up like what my financial advisor's doing.
Right.
Like that's how I see it. Another use for it that ties into society is voting.
Okay.
So in the past elections with Trump and Hillary, right, we had all that. People, Trump was like, oh, I'm stealing votes. The same thing with like Al Gore and George Bush.
Right.
What I'm thinking like is like, yo, like with all these problems that we have of verification and processes.
Why not use blockchain to verify the transaction and look up the vote and count that way versus counting a bin that got moved to the other side of the school multi-purpose room and 3 votes fell out and people are being shady with the machines and accounts. And I'm just using like a real life example to corroborate what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, that's the cool thing about it, right? Like, that's why I'm super bullish on it and just excited about the technology. I don't know what it's going to end up being. It's going to evolve.
Right.
But just the key, like, I'm just looking at societal problems outside of money. But money's only one thing, right? Like, people living in the U.S., the 1%ers, the 10%ers, whatever we are, right? Like, that don't matter. But my whole point is there are other use cases for it outside of just cash it out. Right? And that could be revolutionary for society. And that's why I'm super bullish and excited about blockchain. Right? Like there's verification through a complex process. One person can't scam the system. Trump can't just call Russia because it's a distributed ledger.
A super host of computers is checking
you
and
can't
verifying.
go get every single computer before we find out your scam.
Right, exactly.
You can't.
Right. So it looks for like what they call breaks in the chain to revert any bad information or bad transactions. So it won't be widespread because as soon as it's seen, these supercomputers just bad, get it out the chain, right? Like
the blockchain doesn't allow a new block to be added until it's verified. So it goes through the proof of work process.
Okay.
Or, in the case of other technologies, proof of history, like with Solana, like proof of history.
Okay.
Proof of stake, right? All these methods are verification methods to making sure that what's added to the blockchain is
solid,
legit, and it's not one person doing it. It's a distributed group of computers and technology on a network that isn't tied to one person. You know what I'm saying?
So the integrity and trust in blockchain is revolutionary by itself.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so do me a favor, Keril. Break down the layers and the infrastructure of the actual blockchain, because now we have a good understanding that, it's a giant ledger system. It has trust and integrity amongst this major computer system. So it will help people out when they're trying to determine like who did what, when, and where. Now that we can find that out, what are the other layers that are constructed to the point where like that's even possible to happen?
All right, yeah, I got you. I've been in like networking all my life. So I work for Cisco, so that's how I've made money. So I'm like, all right, well, how do you make money with blockchain? What are the different like networking layers to do that, right? So I was like, all right, well, let's break it down. And here's what they are. So layer 0 is like the physical layer, right? The infrastructure of it.
Okay.
Layer 1 is going to be the consensus layer. So that's where Ethereum, Solana, proof of work, like that's where all that takes place.
Okay.
Layer 2, you got your applications, Coinbase and the various wallets that are used. And then layer 3 is like, as I understanding, is like the gaming, like CryptoKitties and stuff like that. And so those are different layers. Now let's talk about why it's important to know, right? Like I'm just not spewing, like trying to sound smart. It's like, if you could use first principles and break this down, you could figure out where's your lane and where you can make money. Because on this channel, we talk about, we're not only talking about investing, we're talking about career. Career could be another metaphor for making money.
Right.
And so if you understand like where your lane is, you can figure out like where to invest or where you can create some skill sets to provide some value, right? Like, do you want to do it on like the layers that the developers do it on like the consensus layer? Do you want to build applications? Do you want to build like engines like CryptoKitties? Or do you want to do something like Coinbase is doing or build like another type of exchange or something like that, right? There are a lot of investing, making money opportunities because we live in a capitalistic society. People pay Mac and they pay K-Dog for the skill set. Google pays me to sell cloud. Deloitte pays you for helping to solve clients' problems technically, right?
Exactly.
All right, so now that we're moving into a new digital age, what are people going to pay for? We don't know. That's why you need to understand these technologies and start researching them so you can get ahead of the game. The way like my brain works and the way that I think about this stuff, it's not just one opportunity, it's like multiple opportunities up and down like the stack. And so that's why it's important for you to understand this stuff, because if this is going to be the future, you don't necessarily have to gamble or put money into crypto, but there's so many different lanes for you to prosper that you need to understand it so that you can prosper off one of them.
Right.
Like if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. So like I might sound like a super tech geek here because, you know, this is what we do. It sounds to me like if we're trying to compare it to something, and I don't want to like, I want to keep it high level so it's not like too deep. For computers, you have operating systems, right? You have Windows, you have Mac, you have Linux, you have whatever. Mm-hmm. Then you have platforms where you can develop software, you know, that's Java, that's whatever IDE environment you use, independent development environment, which gives you the opportunity to create it. Then you have an application layer where people who know how to code. It's like, I don't know how to build Windows. I don't know how to build Mac, but I know how to write code on these platforms that can make an application that does what Coinbase does, that does what this person does. So I think what you're saying is, even if you're not interested in the currency aspect of it or understanding the coins, the tech is so big that you can find different pockets of the tech that suit what you're interested in, whether it's helping voting rights, helping medical records, helping whatever that this giant blockchain ledger system can support. You should get into that, if not the currency like we do.
Exactly. And that's the key reason why we got those three things that we talk about on this channel. There's investing, but there's also career, because you need money in order to invest. And so when I'm thinking about things, I'm not thinking about them in like a monolith process,
like
right?
One.
Yeah, I'm like, it's like binary,
or
like if I'm investing, this is one lane. If I'm gonna make money off this, cool. If I'm gonna start a company, this is another lane. Right. So it's just multiple. It's like the Matrix. It's like, yo, like this technology is crazy. A lot of people are focused on it. There's different lanes. I need to find my lane. Right.
That's good shit, okay? Not sure I got anything to add to that. Let me pound you up on that. You know what I'm saying? Man. You like content like this? Subscribe, like. We giving it up. New Rules Podcast. Okay, just dropped some fire on y'all.
And with that said, bye.